are the only person who has the power to effectively fire Mayor Eric Adams and remove him from this position, which might conceivably moot this whole fight.
This is unbelievably unprecedented for the Department of Justice in Washington to interfere in this way. I need some time to process this and figure out the right approach.
But you are consulting with other leaders, consulting with your advisors, and looking anew at this matter,
Of course I am.
Given the recent developments.
Of course I am.
Okay. So the New York Post is reporting that Hochul is already having behind-the-scenes conversations on booting Adams from City Hall, removing him as mayor. Adams is accused of taking in bribes from the nation of Turkey in exchange for using his powers to open the Turkish House skyscraper in Manhattan. So that's kind of where this all started. The Biden DOJ originally filed those charges. Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani joins us now to talk more about this. You know, this is a very interesting story to me because, you know, I see this from a lot of different sides. I could obviously see that our mayor in this city, a Democrat mayor, could be corrupt. I could also see a DOJ only charging him because he complained a lot about the immigration policies of the Biden administration. How do you see it?
Well, you know, I actually don't think it's very complicated because the history here. We're dealing with the Department of Justice that long before Eric Adams proved to be entirely corrupt. You can't trust anything they do.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're doing the usual, Democrats just say it and nobody analyzes it. First of all, Eric Adams' position change on immigration occurred before the investigation began. It's the reason the investigation began. In fact, you might remember it began when he brought two mayors with him to Washington to complain about Biden. He had been complaining for about 6 months. When it started to spread to two more, I believe, black mayors, the Biden administration panicked, and they do what they do to the people who oppose them. They found a criminal case to bring against him. The criminal case is absurd for my old office to prosecute somebody for upgrading airline tickets. A mayor? First time upgrading airline tickets, they'd have to prosecute about 2/3 of the people in public office for that.
Yeah.
Finally, what he did in exchange, he didn't get any money. He told the buildings department to expedite a building that it should have expedited anyway. So you got a case. It isn't quite as ridiculous and thin as the corrupt cases they brought on Trump or what they've done to me, but it's pretty corrupt and thin. Now, the people who resigned are the people who brought the case.
Yeah.
And they were going to go anyway in about 4 days.
Yeah.
So that's an all completely staged piece of garbage.
Yeah.
And the reality is Hochul should remove herself. She's done considerably more suspicious things than Adams for real money. For example, she got a $600,000 campaign contribution from a COVID supplier for the exact same amount of COVID tests bought in California for $300,000.
Yeah.
And that COVID supplier gave her a $300,000 campaign contribution. As the former head of that office that prosecuted cases they couldn't even dream of, that's a much better bribery case than the stupid thing they're bringing against Adams.
I would imagine that Hochul would be scared to remove Eric Adams because it would just, if the DOJ ever looked at her, they would probably find a lot because she's very
I would volunteer to investigate her if they made me a special assistant. Go after her on the Buffalo Stadium, too, which she's been going after for 7 years, and nobody tells the story that her husband is going to get a gigantic piece of the concessions from that stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, if Adams is even guilty of this, it's small bore stuff.
Yeah.
Where a good prosecutor says you go after the king, you got to kill the king, and with something big and real. Yeah. This is a political harassment prosecution. I don't know if he's innocent or guilty. I never would have brought the case. Yeah. With or without political pressure. Every time I got political pressure, I told him to go to hell. Never exercised political pressure. Yeah. And I smelled this case out and actually talked about it on Newsmax a year and a half ago. And I knew from the minute he showed up at the White House,
he was going to get
And on
hit.
the day that he showed up at the White House, they did a raid on his chief assistant. I said, oh boy, there goes the corrupt Biden goon squad.
You know, everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmitt tonight on Newsmax.